Hey guys, stream is just about to start. So, hold on. Gaby, hello. Oh, oh. Seem to be having issues getting. It's not a problem with your side. My streaming software doesn't seem to be picking up your audio, but I think that's an issue on my end. So hold on. Hold on a second. Should be fine. Gaby, can you speak?
Hello, hello?
Hello? Yeah, it's picking you up now. Hold on.
Okay.
Flickering quite a bit now. Just doing some adjustments, making sure. Oh, this is ridiculous. I don't think we'll have to restart the stream. It's just that software. Oh, I think I got it now.
Whoa.
Okay, cool. So I think we'll go from here. I know that it looks like is it flickering? Oh, never mind. I think we're good, Gaby. So for seems to be some flickering, although it's not an issue on your end. I think that's just my software acting weird. So I think that's hopefully gonna have to. I hope that stops as we go on.
Sounds good.
Yeah. I mean, guys, sorry I can't really fix that. That's just either my software or YouTube acting ridiculous. So I think we'll just go ahead and start, Gaby. So first of all, just want to say to people watching, thank you for tuning in. This is the very first time we're streaming on my new live stream channel. Oh.
Yeah, need my hat.
Yes, Gaby needs her dipper hat.
Whoa, you know it.
Yeah.
Well, right, so what are we going to talk about today?
Yeah, so first of all, I just wanted to say once again, thanks for people tuning in. This is our first live stream on our dedicated streaming channel. I mainly just started it only because I was advised since I'm a person who's trying to get into social media management, that I shouldn't have any dead social media accounts. And some of you guys know watching that I have an archive channel where I kept a lot of the videos I made when I was in high school in some of our early video chats when I was still under Kumite World, and I just decided to turn that channel into a live stream channel just because. So I'm not really sure, aside from you'll see the typical discussion videos or trailer reactions and movie and TV discussions we often do on my main Blood Moon Bobby channel. But I know there's plenty of other ideas. Maybe one of these days I'll do something like game streaming on this channel, but I'll make an official announcement if I decide to do that. So it's early days, this is our first stream, and hopefully it goes alright. So yeah, my software is all set up. People, just in case, I know we're kind of stalling, Gaby, but I just want to say for the people watching, I am using OBS, the same software a lot of YouTube streamers use to stream games. It's also pretty decent for live streaming discussions like this. So without further ado, you want to just get into something that Steven actually showed us. Unfortunately, he can't be here.
Oh, yeah. With the whole talk of, CalArts not teaching a good style, and that all the messed up shows that are animated are coming from students of CalArts and all that.
Isn't the issue more...
Our buddy Steven isn't particularly interested in that topic. But he did come across this. What was it? Was it Twitter?
Yeah, it was a tweet. I'll show you guys. I'm not sure if I want to say who tweeted it because I looked up the tweet on Reddit, and when it was posted on Reddit, they crossed out the person's name. But I've got the tweet here, and let me just... Wait, I really wish there was an undo option in OBS, but hold on a second. I thought I had it from... There we go. And the tweet said, quote, "During my time at CalArts, I've had animation teachers and mentors who have had personal issues working with Don Bluth himself, and said he didn't treat them properly. Now I can speak..." Oh, wait, this is a different tweet. Dang, I thought it was... Because I thought we were going to talk about... Yeah, because the tweet that Steven sent us was about people, like... And sorry if I'm saying like or as, I'm just kind of flabbergasted. The tweet was saying that they didn't like Don Bluth's very flowy animation style.
Yeah. I think we can pull it up here. Let me see if I can find it. It was on our... we have a little group chat we like to share stuff on. So...
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull that up. Bear with me.
Of course.
Going up, going up, going up. You know what? Let me get my phone because it's going to be faster there. Just a sec.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if we really want to say the
let's
name of the person, only because Reddit crossed out the name, so I'm wondering if this person doesn't want to be known, so...
Possibly.
Or maybe after the person
Alright,
posted...
I got it. Alright, so, if you don't mind me reading it, Bubby.
Yeah, go right ahead.
What's funny is that when I was still attending CalArts, Don Bluth was always considered a joke. For cheesy, outdated, overflowy animation, when his name is mentioned among other classmates or teachers, it starts with a roll of eyes, a sigh, and then a rant.
Now, we'll get into the tweet saying people had issues working with Don Bluth later, because that was literally the first time I saw it. I must have mixed up the tweets. But let's start off with the whole CalArts, you know, kind of rolling their eyes, or at least the claim that CalArts rolls their eyes when they hear the mere mention of Don Bluth. And by the way, I did look up if Don Bluth attended CalArts, and it was very hard to find any background information, but the sources I looked up didn't say anything about him attending CalArts. They said that, like, he attended Brigham Young University in Utah, which, by the way, has a really good pre-calculus summer school program if you guys need to retake pre-calculus, but we're not here to talk about that. But let's start with the whole... What exactly was your impressions of that tweet, Gabby?
Okay, so I didn't recognize the name. I'll be honest. I know. I'm horrible with names, guys. Okay. But I went back. I figured out who it was. And at first, before looking him up, I was like, you know what? That's mean. Why would you want to say that to anyone? But I thought, you know what? Maybe there's something about it that they didn't like. You know, something that's obviously kind of problematic. Because a lot of people have problems with highly detailed art styles that are really hard to animate. Or on the flip side, art styles get so simplified that people just don't want to look at them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, hey, maybe it's one of those problems, you know? And I go, and I see what works he's been on, and I'm like, none of these works have had that problem.
Yeah, I mean, basically, because the thing about, you know, CalArts, as the school that, I believe CalArts was actually founded by Walt Disney himself, like, you have to imagine many people who go to CalArts, maybe not everybody, but at least a good chunk of them have ambitions of working for Disney. So it's like, if you like Disney's traditional animation, then Don Bluth's is very similar, at least in terms of drawing style. Like, I don't like. Let's actually like go back even a little bit. Did you have experience with Don Bluth movies when you were a kid?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. An American Tale. Uh, The Land Before Time. Oof, those two especially. My childhood. That was part of what it comprised of. So yeah, I mean, I always really liked Ducky and Petrie.
Mm-hmm.
um, I'm trying to think what else. And Fievel, I always loved Fievel.
Yeah.
The one I didn't really watch was The Secret of Nimh,
Mm-hmm.
but I'd at least heard of it, and I knew it was supposed to be really crazy and really good. And I've gone to see plenty of clips of it, and the quality of animation is just, it's there. You don't need to go too far to see it.
Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, I don't know if you know this, Gabby, but the story about Bluth was he did used to work for Disney, but because kind of like what happened to Tim Burton, because this was at a time, this was post, Walt Disney's death, and the studio wasn't coming out with really good movies. He basically just said, no, I can't work with this. I'm gonna go form my own animation company, and that's why we got. Did you know that, Gabby?
I didn't know that that's why he ended up making his own company.
Mm-hmm.
I had slight information of that he used to work and now he didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But that explains a lot, and I think one of the points that they make, because the thread continues, to mention how he's been extremely successful as far as his own independent works have gone. And they made the point that he was giving his own lectures on animation.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yeah, and I looked into it a little bit. He has something that's called Don Bluth Animation University.
Yeah, I briefly saw
of the sort.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, you see, it looks like there are quite a few people interested in it, because it's always really small.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of people that they allow to even sign up for it, and the price is, oof.
It's really expensive.
Well, yeah, judging that you're going to be working in such a small group and on such a specific topic,
Mm-hmm.
For an entire year, granted, but still, man, like, holy mac. Whew. That says something, like there's a demand for it.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think you can't really hate someone if they're in demand. They're not really doing anything bad through that demand, and they're still continuing to be successful. Now, that's not to say that the person may have flaws. Obviously, nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm. Especially in the workplace.
But you can't hate them for success, that's for sure.
Right. And it's weird, though. By the way, I looked into that tweet it came from the exact same person who tweeted that, saying that a lot of CalArts people weren't fans of Don Bluth and were saying that Bluth mistreated them. I couldn't find many other details in that tweet. Like, they didn't go into specifically what they mean by mistreatment, and you know what I'm saying?
And that sounds a lot more understandable. Like, okay, you can't hate him for his work, because his work seems pretty good.
I mean, not a perfect resume. Like me personally, I've seen several of Bluth's movies. Like, in my case, I saw Land Before Time, which, by the way, made me cry as a kid. And my sis at one point was like, "Oh, don't turn it on." And I've also seen Bartok, Anastasia,
Bartok the Magnificent! I love that. I actually watched that later when I was a grown-up, but so
Yeah,
so cute.
I saw it
I
like
don't even
when I was
care.
like 9. My mom just brought it home as like, oh, it looks like a movie the kids would like, and yeah, that was enjoyable. And then there was also All Dogs Go to Heaven, which I remember seeing as a kid, but I honestly don't remember it too well. Like I remember bits and pieces, but not the whole movie.
I have a good chunk of the movie in memory. I just remembered it was one of those really emotional ones for me.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, like it wasn't necessarily sad in its entirety, but you know,
Mm-hmm.
you're just like a roller coaster of emotions. And
Mm-hmm.
it's, oh. No,
Yeah.
no, and then like we one of the things that I found impressive was that he also was behind Dragon Quest.
Dragon Quest or Dragon's Lair?
Dragon's Lair, there you go.
Yes,
I'm
that
sorry.
notorious video
No,
game where you gotta
different
hit the
things,
button at the right
different
time.
things, different things.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you know, Dragon's Lair.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I haven't really got to look into it too much, but from what I have seen, that is like, holy man, a lot of effort had to be put into something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
Uh,
honestly have to play it. I've had many opportunities to play it. Like, it's been ported to so many consoles over the years. I'm kind of surprised I never downloaded it.
I didn't even know about it, really. I think it was I know I saw it on YouTube. I don't know if it was
Was it Angry
in the
Video Game Nerd?
possibly, yeah. I did used to watch a lot of Angry Video Game Nerd.
Yeah, because I know that's where I first heard of Dragon's Lair. Or at least that was the first time I saw actual game, quote-unquote, gameplay of Dragon's Lair.
So I don't know if it was Angry Video Game Nerd or Nostalgia Critic, and it was weird. I can't really remember.
It doesn't really matter. The point is, you know of it, I know of it, and so
Yeah, yeah.
forth.
But I thought, hey, if he could even like, if he's worked on something like that, then dang. Now, can you hate someone for being a bad person?
Right.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it kind of goes into the whole, like, something fascinating I've discovered about not just, like, people in the business, but just people in general, is how in the public eye, they're, like, a person can be seen as a really chill person, but when they're in, like, a very intimate place, like their home or even at work, that's where a lot of their personal demons spout out. Like, probably one of the most famous examples, and this is one we've talked about a lot, is Steve Jobs, for instance, where on stage he seemed like a passionate but calm person, but behind the scenes, a lot of people say he was very aggressive, very foul-mouthed, a very demanding person. So I have a feeling maybe that's the kind of person Bluth was, at least according to the tweet. Like, the tweet was saying that, not the one in particular, but a follow-up tweet that the person was trying to clarify basically said, I'll pull it up here. If I could just remember. And like I said before, the person didn't really give additional details. It said, a follow-up tweet, which I do have here. Or actually, yeah, I have it here. It said that during my time at CalArts, I've had animation teachers and mentors who have had personal issues working with Don Bluth himself, and he said he didn't treat them properly. Now, I can't speak for those experiences myself, but it did paint an image for his reputation, too.
And that's a completely different point.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I think that's something that is natural in a sense when you have a lot of people who've had bad experiences with someone. They may want to look over some of their strengths just and not in a bad way. I'm not saying this makes them a bad person or anything. It's just kind of a natural thing one wants to do. Heck, I'm very well may have done something on these lines, but just trying to kind of like distance themselves and kind of feel like they're better off without the person. If that makes sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, oh, well, their work wasn't even that good anyways. And I mean, it sucks. It is kind of called for, especially if the person was a really big jerk. But,
Right.
it's always a question of being the bigger person, and not everyone does it in the same way. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, as a tech and video game journalist, I come across, the claims that these executives at these video game publishing corporations are really nasty people who only care about, getting the biggest dollar possible. I've looked into horror stories about working at Konami, Ubisoft. So, a tweet saying, that CalArts was it professors, teachers and mentors from this tweet saying that Bluth mistreated them. Mistreated is a very it's kind. I mean, yeah, it paints a kind of intimidating picture, but it doesn't even give an idea of the scope, like of the of how Bluth treated like his animators. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it could either be he could have been like, I wouldn't be surprised maybe he was over demanding in Sword. I've seen Don Bluth interviewed by Doug Walker, and when he was on Nostalgia Critic, and he seems like a calm, even fun-loving guy, but it's kind of very hard to pinpoint what exactly this person means by that. I mean, not that I'm sure one of us could go to CalArts and actually ask the professors. I mean, who knows? Maybe they want to keep it private and such. I guess I'm just kind of hoping that when they said, I mean, not that mistreatment, and trust me, I've had very stressful like jobs before. I'm pretty sure her Gaby, could vouch for me, but
heck, I have too.
Yeah.
Not too much or not extremely crazy, but hey. And the other thing too is that we gotta keep in mind the only way one could really have a good idea of what the situation is working with that person.
Yeah, if one has worked for Don Bluth himself. I mean, obviously neither of us have. We were very little kids the last time Bluth released a movie, so.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's what they always said, and that's always the definite truth, in that you don't really know. You could, as we are animation fans. The most we can do is speculate.
True. Oh.
And you know what, Gaby? I did try researching how, because a lot of our favorite animators came out of CalArts, like Darren Nefsey, Butch Hartman, Steven Hillenburg, J.G. Cantel. I actually tried looking up, did any of those animators, did any of those animators have something to say about Don Bluth, or even suggest that they don't like his work, and I really honestly couldn't find anything. So,
Nah,
I mean,
who knows?
I mean, look, I think a lot of people know that, well, we're both Star Wars supporters of Evil fans, but if I personally saw, Darren Nefsey come out and say, yeah, I didn't really like Don Bluth's, I'm not a big fan of his style, as long as she's not, because Darren, as we both know, and I've met her myself, is a very down-to-earth sort of person, so I personally couldn't imagine her trying to sound, elitist and trying to make it sound like a fact that Don Bluth's movies suck. But I'm just saying, if any of those animators I just mentioned were respectful, then I could understand. I just wouldn't like it if they tried to sound elitist, and Don Bluth's whose movies aren't that cool.
I mean, they're not obviously they're not something something, how should I put it, like, to end all other movies that are animated. By no means. But it's definitely contributed. His works have definitely contributed to how things are done nowadays.
If anything, when you think about when they came out, it kind of, showed the world, hey, this guy who used to work for Disney, he knows, like, he has that Disney spirit at a time when Disney wasn't putting out many great films. The movies of the 70s and 80s, even the ones I've seen, like Fox and the Hound and The Rescuers, and I wouldn't call them the worst, but I can't even remember much about The Rescuers, to be quite honest.
I don't know if I remember much of The Rescuers either. I remember a good chunk, but it's all chopped up. Yeah, it was one of those movies that kind of like got swept off, kind of just like it had its moment and then it just kind of floated off.
Yeah. So, I don't know what else to say other than if the CalArts professors were like, if they said they kind of scoffed at Don Bluth style, like, because here's the thing, another thing I wanted to mention is, even with, like, some really famous directors, they all have kind of quirks we can make fun of them for. Like Steven Spielberg is very whimsical, Stanley Kubrick is slow, a lot of Scorsese movies are violent, and Kurzweil. I mean, those three directors are legends in my mind. I'm just saying we can agree. Yeah, there are times when they go, where their known traits kind of show off a little too much. You know what I'm saying, Gabby? Like,
yeah, and to an extent, I feel like it's enjoyable. Like it's part of why you end up going back to certain directors. And I like to bring this up to make the point that it could very well be subjective,
Yeah.
There might not be anything wrong with it, but just a lot of people aren't a fan of it, of that way of doing things, and you know what? That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Now, add to that there may have been some, kind of like bad situations they had with Don Bluth, and you kind of see why they would end up talking like that about his work. Yeah, it's not fair. It doesn't seem fair. I haven't seen anything to make it fair. But there's also no reason for him to complain about it. Which I don't know. I don't think he has. I haven't heard anything about it. So there you go.
Yeah. I guess I would just be interested to know what exactly do those people mean. I'm not saying I don't believe the CalArts professors and mentors that say, oh, Don Bluth mistreated me or things like that. I'm just hoping, like, I don't know how to put it, because, like, I'm against, any kind of mistreatment in the workplace, whether it be like, being over demanding or going into, other, scare things in the workplace that I don't want to, like, mention, because I don't want it to make it sound like I'm assuming that Bluth did this or that. Not that I'm suspecting him of doing anything. I'm just, like hoping for Bluth's sake. You know what I'm saying? Because, as we said before, we weren't there. Like, we're fans of his movies, but as you said before, and as with any, like, understanding work culture, the best way to learn about it is you have to work there yourself, or at the very least, you have to talk to people who work there. So,
yeah, and even then, you have to kind of tell if there's even the opportunity to, where some parts may have just been kind of like tweaked. Because whether the person intends to or not, they are human, and they may remember the situation slightly differently than it actually happened, or even more so differently than how the other person in the situation sees it.
I mean,
You know,
biases, kind of color, thoughts of the past and, memories and things like that. I mean, it's kind of human nature. It'd be nice if people didn't do that, but, that's just how people are. So,
yeah, and again, it just happens.
hmm
It just happens.
I mean, I'm even kind of suspecting, as CalArts is the place where a lot of animators, including animators, go. Because, in the 80s, Bluth's movies competed really hard with, like, Disney. So, I'm kind of wondering, if I'm saying for the ones that just don't like his work, if they're just salty toward Bluth because he was a former competitor, or you might even say, oh, he kind of betrayed Disney so he can go form his own studio. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely,
But
definitely. It very well might be part of it.
hmm yeah, but I don't know. I guess the only thing we can just ask for is if any, CalArts professor, like, I can't picture them releasing like an official statement or something. I could picture maybe if one of their mentors or professors are on Twitter, if they released a tweet that said that detail what was it like to work for Blue or something like that. I could see, looking into that thing. You know what I'm saying, Gabby?
Definitely, definitely. That would probably be something that at the very least could shed some more light on the whole situation. Or even if Don Bluth goes out of his way to point out what happened on his end,
hmm
I think it would at least be something as well.
Yeah, I mean, he does have a Twitter account, so if anything, I would honestly expect more of a response from Bluth himself. Although it'll be interesting to see, would Bluth, like, tell it as it is, or would he be, like, super defensive of the way he acted? Like, even if he knew, like, maybe he was just over demanding, or this one is kind of scary. If he told somebody, "Hey, you got to come in and work like extra hours to, work on a scene for, let's say, American," or even Butch Hartman. Did you actually know Butch Hartman was an in-between intern on American Tail?
Sorry?
Did you know that Butch Hartman was an in-between animator and intern on American Tail?
I did not. I did not know that.
Yeah, Butch said that in a YouTube video. I'm kind of interested would Butch like say something. I mean, I know Butch can be very optimistic, but he does like kind of give hints into the corporate world, the places he worked at. Like, remember there was that hated Fairly Odd Parents character Chloe Carmichael?
Yup.
He shed some
Yup.
light in that he did admit it was that corporate asked him to make a foil character for.
I think I remember hearing that too.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be
Oh my
surprised.
god.
But yeah, I'd honestly be very interested to hear that. Because I'm honestly trying to think, were there other corporate bosses that I could name names off who had like serious claims, but I still, can respect them? Because a lot of the people, when I hear scary claims about them, I'm just like, no, I don't want to go work for you. Like I said, the Konami CEO or Ubisoft CEO, when they had really damning claims about how they run their companies, it's kind of unforgiving stuff. I mean, like I said, I would imagine probably the closest, and I know you're personally not a fan of his, but like in terms of like he was a very demanding and vulgar guy, but he it wasn't like a John Lasseter kind of a case. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think like one of the things going back to the whole deal with Steve Jobs and comparing it to the whole thing with Don Bluth and how it doesn't make someone completely lacking in talent in any way.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Despite um, the whole issue with Steve Jobs that everyone had, that he was just really demanding and really mean and vulgar at times.
Mm-hmm.
His innovation showed. When you saw a lot of the products that he had at the start of it all, you could see that he had a lot of good ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the whole gray area starts to come when the person tries to manifest that idea, if that makes sense. In Steve Jobs' case, the electronic product, and in Don Bluth's case, the animated film. And sometimes these people are so caught up in that whole task of getting it out that they may forget what they're doing and who's doing it with them. Where they're willing to be just sitting there and just doing working at it non-stop because they're just so pumped up for it that the other people may not necessarily be on the same page with them. And sometimes when one doesn't understand that, they get confused. It's like, why the heck aren't you working faster? We need to get this out. Oh my god!
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a workplace thing that I feel a lot of people, even good bosses, have. I guess the only other example I could think of, although this is going more based off of his reality shows, is, I guess, Gordon Ramsay-ish? Even
then, though, Gordon Ramsay can tell when he can do that and when he can't.
Yeah, because in his case...
he can tell a big difference between the different people that he works with.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people, say, hey, he just acts angry for TV, but there's been, documentaries, and even if you read up on him, that he was very, harsh and very angry, and angry, at his work, mainly because he worked in Paris. The chefs he worked under were very strict on him. There was even a case where he worked for a very famous chef named Marco Pierre White, and he made him cry once. So, in his case, it's that kind of, the head chef, that very militant sort of style. And, and in the case, I was just trying to think of, again, workplace bosses who are very demanding, but, are still respected. You know what I'm saying, Gabby?
Yeah, definitely. And that may very well be the case here, too, And you look at it at that, and, let's say Don Bluth did have that situation. How would you expect him to really be able to see that? Because for him, it was just a matter of getting the whole work done.
Exactly.
In that situation, not saying that is the case. Again.
Right. Again, speculation.
If
that was the case, then...
him in that situation either.
Yeah. And if that was the case, then I would honestly respect, I would still be more understanding, you would still have a total respect.
Definitely.
Yeah. And again, though, I'm just saying that if it goes beyond that, we're going to have to, hear it from somebody from CalArts, you know what I'm saying? So...
Well, in order to have any good idea of what happened, somebody's going to have to say something.
Yeah. Because, as people, we don't want to go around making scary claims all over the internet. Then it goes into, very scary journalism, libel, slander territory,
Definitely. That's the last thing we want.
Trust me, last thing I certainly want. So, I don't know. Is there anything more we can say? I feel like we already kind of beat this topic a lot in terms of, don't this, in terms of, you said, not to diss people who... like Don Bluth's films. I mean, I will say, while he's not one of, my all-time favorite animators, I can definitely say he's a legend in his own right,
I can agree with that.
And, so, I don't know,
Not really.
Right. Because I will say, I do kind of get what people mean when they say, Bluth's animation style is more fluid. I think for me, it's more about his characters, but I'm not really sure what to say. It's not that I dislike his characters. I just kind of think, as a person who likes to study animation, I like learning about different kinds of directors and different styles. And I'm kind of in the same place who watching a lot of, this one person's movies. I feel like I'm missing out on more ideas. You know what I'm saying? That feeling when you don't expand your horizons.
Right. And I think I can kind of see why people might not be interested in his style as a matter of taste, mainly because the way his works are animated, mixed with the writing that you get in his stories, you get a sense, sort of a melodrama.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of like and that's not for everyone. That definitely isn't for everyone. But I certainly wouldn't go out of my way to say necessarily bad, because the acting itself is done well.
Right.
And the melodrama is worked out in a way where it fits the story. We're not talking about uh, like coming out in the middle of the day on 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 TV,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And no disrespect for that either. You know, it's just like it's an iconic piece of the genre, along with, like, you know, B movies,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. We're talking more about the lines of the reactions, the facial expressions that you see to the events that happen to these characters. Like, no, a character's not gonna, like, burst into a whole Shakespearean monologue because a sandwich fell.
Yeah. I mean,
But you know, definitely there's going to be situations that happen. Well, there are situations in those movies that happen where the character, uh, uh, how do I say it? Kind of like with merit,
mm-hmm.
reacts in an exaggerated way to it.
Yeah.
Like the whole deal, the whole deal with The Land Before Time, when, you know, Littlefoot is with his mom.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or how, like, when you start off with Secret of Nimh, like, one of the kids is, like, extremely sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, stuff like that. But other than that, I don't really see anything where people could be like, nah, it's not my thing.
I think it's more because I've met people like this, but it's just a matter of the fact that Bluth's movies are very downbeat, especially like his earlier movies. And in his case, it works out for them because they're very drastic scenarios. You know, like American Tail,
Exactly.
Fievel gets split from his parents. In Land Before Time, not only is like Littlefoot split from his grandparents, but his mom gets killed in an earthquake. So to be fair, those are very emotionally devastating situations. You know.
Exactly, that's what I was getting at. You know, like, that whole sense of melodrama comes from these situations where it's granted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just there because, oh my god, we have to make this interesting.
Mm-hmm. I think it's more Bluth going with the idea of contrasting the light stuff with the dark stuff that we see in a lot of, you know, Disney movies, not just from when Walt was still alive, but even, you know, closer to today. You know what I'm saying?
Definitely, definitely.
So yeah, I'm just saying that because I definitely know there's people out there that don't want to see like a super like downbeat movie. They want to see something that's a lot more upbeat. My mom is kind of one of those people.
Yeah. You know, that's one of the things it's what they tell you too. Going into film, and more so going into the whole getting a good audience thing. I remember one of the things is make family movies.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, that's how you get a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, make sure it has an happy ending.
Which most of Bluth's movies have happy endings, just saying.
Yeah, but you know what I mean by that. Like,
yeah, I know, like the parents that don't get it.
It's like you make them feel good.
Mm-hmm.
So good. All the good.
Oh my god. Tell that to every Disney fan I met in high school. You know what I'm saying?
And Disney doesn't necessarily do that completely, because, you know, you do have like creepy or upsetting, or potentially slightly upsetting aspects, or kind of like, I guess, dark elements to their stories.
Yeah, I mean, many of them.
The way that they're done, though, you kind of disconnect with them, because it's just kind of like, oh, that's not me in that situation. That's the character. And it's for like a few moments.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just like, oh, okay, it's done now. and there was no real danger. Like the whole scene in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where Snow White is in the creepy forest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's what I think of. It's still whimsical in a sense where it's not like trippy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of like where it pulls you in with it.